All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. Time to do the Tao now. Tuesday Tao, ladies and gentlemen, reading from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. Living the wisdom of the Tao. But that simple sentence there, the ability to change your thoughts, is something life-changing in itself. And when you can begin to change your perception, change the way that you look at things, change your thoughts, you will begin to see things differently. The things that you look at will change, and you will, in turn, change your life, ladies and gentlemen. But it takes a commitment. It takes a commitment to learning, to practicing, and to continue to apply and learn and grow, to continue to go and to continue to grow, ladies and gentlemen. So, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. Hope you've got yourself a cup of tea or a cold beverage if it's later in the evening. The tea says today, be fearless. Know that all will be provided in the right time. In the right time, ladies and gentlemen. And sometimes that's the difficulty of life, is having the patience, and knowing that our entire journeys are on purpose. And it's just a chance here for us to learn and to discover and to grow our spirit or our soul in this journey. But anyways, we come to the 63rd verse of the Tao Te Ching. And if you were here last week, then you may know we did not do our normal reading of Wayne Dyer's extrapolation on this idea of living without difficulties. And so it seems fitting here, to me at least, and hopefully it seems fitting for you, for us to go through now this reading about living without difficulties. Because the verse offered such a simplistic philosophy and a simplistic idea of how we should do the Tao now or practice the Tao. From this 63rd verse of the Tao Te Ching, I decided to keep it very simple last week because it was that kind of teaching. It was practice non-action, work without doing, taste the tasteless, the 63rd verse says, and it continues, magnify the small, increase the few, reward bitterness with care, and see simplicity in the complicated. Achieve greatness in little things. Take on difficulties while they are still easy, do great things while they are still small. The sage does not attempt anything very big and thus achieves greatness. If you agree too easily, you will be little trusted because the sage allows. No, the sage always confronts difficulties. He never experiences them. That's a fascinating ending line there. Because he confronts his difficulties, he never experiences them. That brings to my mind, if you have the ability, I was just talking with my dad last night about this. The way Alan Watts would describe it, it's like you are fighting, or it's like you're a samurai, or it's like you're battling life, and you're doing it with some great ability, some gusto, he called it. And I always thought of that, like whatever life is throwing at you, you're able to counter its energy and, block it and combat it. Kung Fu, ladies and gentlemen. But I like that analogy or that metaphor there with this line here about the sage confronting difficulties and thus not experiencing them. Now, let's expand on what is meant here in this 63rd verse of the Tao Te Ching, in which Wayne Dyer titles his extrapolation, Living Without Difficulties. And so this verse conveys, Wayne Dyer begins saying, so much with an economical use of words. He says, every time I read what Lao-tzu is saying here, I feel that it is impossible for me to experience difficulties in my life if I'm willing to accept Lao-tzu's sage advice. And I'll add, if we're able to understand that advice, and then if we're able to accept that advice. Wayne continues, he counsels that we learn to think in moments rather than in days, weeks, months, years, decades, or an entire lifetime. And remember, I say that often, ladies and gentlemen, our lives are made up of moments. And so it is the quality of our life is directly related to the quality of our moments. So make this a good moment, ladies and gentlemen. The sun is shining here, so that's beautiful, but there's many things to see. Even if the snow is on the trees, that could be beautiful too. Enjoy your moments as much as you can, and don't let things drag into the rest of your moments. Even though that, that doesn't mean that we don't make decisions based off things that happen in life, but it's important not to let the decisions that we make or the things that have happened in life, continue to affect us in a negative way going forward. But let us continue. Wayne says, he counsels us that we learn to think in moments. All we ever get is right now. That's it. All we ever get is right now, ladies and gentlemen. And we can, that doesn't mean that the past doesn't exist and that we can't think about the future. But we use up right now doing those things. So it's important to notice that right now is all we have. And so how are you going to use it, ladies and gentlemen? And I appreciate that you're using it, being here with me, learning this wisdom of the Tao and this life-changing wisdom, how we can change our thoughts here to improve the quality of our lives and the lives of those around us. I followed that advice, Wayne says, while working on this book. It's the little things that make all the difference. He says, once again, I'll go back here. All we ever have is right now. That's it. So we must avoid the inclination to magnify tiny events or worry about a future that may never arrive. It's the little things that make all the difference in our world. And keeping life simple replaces chaos. As Lao-tzu reminds us, see simplicity in the complicated. Do great things while they are still small, ladies and gentlemen, while they are still small. He says, I followed that advice while working on this book, like we just said a second ago. As you might imagine, writing individual essays on 81 verses of one of the most revered and enduring spiritual texts has been a daunting task. A project like this involves at least a year of daily researching, reading, writing, and revising. And so, yet instead of focusing on the challenges of this project, Wayne says, I chose to, quote unquote, see simplicity and, quote, take on difficulties while they are still easy. I immerse myself in a single verse in the morning, allowing the words to flow through my heart and onto the page. I feel like I've mastered the ironic conclusion of this 63rd passage of the Tao, which says that difficulties are not experienced when they are confronted, which to me was the line that really stood out there. It's like how so many of us have so many difficulties in our lives, Wayne and Lao-tzu. How is it, great spiritual teachers or God or Tao or source, force, universe, how is it that we can go through the things that we are supposed to suffer from in order to learn in our journeys without truly suffering as much as we may without knowing the wisdom? Or how is it, in another way of saying, like this verse is talking about, how is it that difficulties are not experienced when they are confronted? Well, Wayne says this then is the wisdom of this verse. the wisdom of this verse, ladies and gentlemen. If you're getting value, consider subscribing and leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section down below. Boom. Then this is the wisdom of this verse. Wayne says, there is no such thing as difficulty when you live in the present moment. And even my mind right now is going like, oh yes, that's ridiculous. How is that possible? So let's see, ladies and gentlemen, because I bet many of our minds went there. There's no such thing as difficulty when you live in the present moment. How? Doing only what you can right now. Okay, so that's part of the explanation. You're doing all that you can right now. So examine your thoughts about what you call the troubles in your life. And see, this is an introspection practice, which contemplation, self-reflection, and meditation, and these ideas of these kind of things, working on the mind and becoming to know thyself, is extremely important for this ability that we're describing here, this ability to go beyond difficulties. And so he continues, so examine your thoughts about what you call the troubles of your life. Not many of us want to do that, but it could be a powerful exercise to write down and just try to get a concrete list maybe of what it is that we actually call the struggles in our life. Because sometimes, we get real extrapolated, or we extrapolate a lot what it is we think that are our problems. But if we were really to try to put it into a concrete list or something that is actually, that we can look at, it might not be as much of all those little things that we're always getting ourselves so worked up about, which I'm just like that. So I'm not immune to this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm learning just as much on this journey of Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Tuesday Tao here on this channel. I'm learning just as much with you as you are, hopefully, from this, because this is just me as well going through this research. Even though I've been fascinated, and I've heard the audiobooks of this probably twice, and I've been listening and learning from spiritual teachers and Wayne Dyer and many, many others for probably close to a decade now. Maybe 11 years, because I remember it started like late 2011. Before 2012, my real, kind of spiritual aha. And when I started discovering that because 2012 was going to happen. This is part of my story here, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested. The way that my introduction or beginning or enlightenment, as some people call it, or your awakening, because, we're all on this journey to enlightenment that, as many great spiritual masters have said, can take many hundreds of lifetimes. But my awakening in this lifetime came late 2011, before 2012, because, everybody was worried about the end of the world. And if you were into, science documentaries or documentaries about history and, basically History Channel in 2010. And so that's kind of a reference. It's so funny how things have changed in 13 years, ladies and gentlemen. But and so, of course, the whole end of the world, Mayan calendar, then you could go on YouTube back then, and there was fear porn galore. All the amount of content that would show you the kind of information to make you scared, to feed that endorphin rush in your brain that I later learned about that being a thing. And so we become addicted to this fear or this bad news or whatever it is. That's negativity in our lives. We become addicted to it over time because of the behavioral loop patterns. And so, anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but it started for me late 2011 because I was really thought the world was going to end. I was having dreams about fire coming over the mountains, just a wall of fire. And, that could be very frightening, of course, especially for a young adult. I'm 32 now, so I was probably, 20 back then, or 19 or something. And so I started going in a new direction. Rather than looking up the videos that were going to show me the reasons why the Mayan calendar was right and all of these things, I started looking up why it's not going to happen. And it's funny, actually. This is a great exercise to do for yourself if you're stuck on one side of a debate or an opinion stream, whether it be something that you're getting from the news or somewhere else. Hopefully, none of us watching this channel are still watching the news, but it's your own prerogative, ladies and gentlemen. But it's an interesting exercise to tell yourself, all right, if this is what I firmly believe, maybe I should just go ahead and research the opposite of what I firmly believe to see, if maybe there might be some validity to the other side without me having cognitive dissonance, which means putting up a wall to something that comes against my perspective or my viewpoint of the world, which is the magic of changing your thoughts and changing your life. When you can get rid of that wall, that blockage, or that cognitive dissonance that says, oh, this is the way it is, and there's no other way that I can possibly view my life in the world. When we can get over that, that's when real change happens for us, the individual. And so I think it was WSO, Wormwood System Observations, of Steve Olson and Wayne Steiger back in the day, talking about Nibiru and Planet X, and that was scary stuff. And then Wayne started getting into what is the spirit, what is the soul, and started talking about spirituality and its relationship to, religion, and how there's a separation between religion and spiritual traditions, and these ideas of what God really might be, and why are we here, and all the bigger questions. And that was when I found out, ladies and gentlemen, that no matter what goes on out here in the world, if we're here in a temporary physical journey as a spiritual being, so we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience, we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, that no matter what happens in this physical experience is kind of irrelevant to the bigger thing. So we have to know, as these spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience, that it's up to us to come from the inside out, rather than letting the outside influence and control our internal state and our feelings and our lives, ladies and gentlemen. So, in other words, I found out, well, if the world is going to end, which it didn't, December 21st, 2012, went by, and I went to work at the Salvation Army back in the day and taking donations. And I remember looking at the sky many times in the day, telling my friend, well, nothing's happening. And he laughed and said, yeah, that's good. That's good, because he wasn't sure either. So long story short, now I'm here 10, 11, 12 years later, ladies and gentlemen, discovering this great wisdom of the ages. And this is why I'm doing these videos. And this is why I've been doing this channel, is because if we can continue to research in the right direction instead of the wrong direction, which that's a subjective point of view, but anyways, I think that explains where I was going at with my, kind of my story and why I am here now doing this. And it goes back to, I'm still learning these things along the way, and hopefully you are too, and hopefully it's having a positive impact on our lives, ladies and gentlemen. I know it has for me. So thank you. Thank you for being here. And let's continue here. We're not done yet, ladies and gentlemen. So stay focused. I tend to ramble sometimes. So Wayne says, after all, how do you pursue a difficult course of study that will take several years to complete? So maybe that's why I just rambled all that. Because of that sentence, ladies and gentlemen. Can you shift to thinking of every undertaking as not only manageable, but easy and small as well? So after all, how do you pursue a difficult course of study that may take several years to even begin the journey, which is what I feel in this journey of spiritual growth and, growth of the spirit, of the soul. And being in this world, but not of it. But Wayne continues here, after all, by not projecting yourself into the future or using your present moments to worry, because that's all we're doing when we're worrying or feeling upset about the past, is we're using up our present moments. See, I really needed this today. I really needed this today, ladies and gentlemen. Do not use up your present moments to worry about the future, because Mark Twain said, about 99% of all the things that I ever worried about ended up not happening anyways. I don't know if that's exactly how the quote goes, but that's the gist. And if we're being frustrated or whatever it be about something that happened yesterday, 2 weeks ago, or 10 years in the past, and we're using up the energy that we have a limited amount of here in our present moments, which is what we have, which is all we have. So, how do you get through the long, difficult process, Wayne says, maybe for example, of giving birth to a child? Moment by moment. He says, I've watched my wife do just that during the years she was either pregnant or nursing, delivering 5 children in 8 years. Wayne was busy, as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, busy raising children. Get your mind out of the gutter. As Lao-tzu teaches, if you don't attempt anything big, you can achieve greatness. This is fantastic. I'm getting a lot out of this, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully you are too, because this is powerful. This is how you change your thoughts and change your life. Almost every morning, Wayne continues, I do a 90-minute hot yoga class with 26 postures and 2 breathing exercises. Now, talk about dedication, ladies and gentlemen. Now, an hour and a half of intense activity in a room that's more than 105 degrees can seem dangerous, I'll say, but can seem not only big, Wayne says, but very difficult as well. So to the lesson we're learning here, he says, I've learned to change the way that I think about this daily difficult routine. So instead of thinking it as difficult, he's changed the way that he thinks about it. And so that he begins to enjoy it so much. He says, and now I find it to be easy. And this is, I'll cut in here, an example of the meaning of change your thoughts, change your life, or change the way you look at the things, and the things that you look at change. There's a perfect example of it. So he says, as the first breathing exercise begins, I keep my mind and body totally focused on what I'm doing in the opening moment. If my mind wants to wander to what I'll be doing in an hour, I just bring it back to the present moment. I look in the mirror and remind myself that this experience, that this exercise or posture is small and simple. Bingo. Difficult is out of the picture. So coming back to the moment and reminding ourselves what we're doing now is small and simple. Let the big picture take care of itself, and bingo, difficulties out the window, maybe. By practicing in the present moment and training myself to stay in a state of simplicity, Wayne says, I've made my 90-minute yoga class a snap. And I've achieved what I consider to be greatness in the little progress and the little progressions and improvements that have evolved naturally. I have no idea what I'm going to title this video. I might just title it what Wayne said there, living without difficulties, or going beyond difficulty, using your mind. But it's fascinating. And so I've achieved what I consider greatness, and these improvements have evolved naturally. It's work without doing, in non-action, in action, because I've confronted what might have been thought of as tough. The result is that I don't experience the difficulty. Lao-tzu urges you and me and us, ladies and gentlemen, here today to change the way that we look at our 21st century world by doing the following suggestions, ladies and gentlemen. Suggestion number 1. Take notes if you want. This is powerful. Suggestion number 1. Look for the simplicity in what you call complicated by seeing that in this moment, it's not hard. Just in this moment, it's not that hard. So look for the simplicity in what you call complicated by seeing that in this moment, it's not hard. Change your preoccupation with tomorrow, along with all of the tomorrowness that compromises your future. He said that comprises your future. But I think with what we're talking about here, compromises is perfect. My friend Byron Katie, he continues, whose husband Stephen Mitchell, another beautiful spiritual teacher along the same lines as Wayne, created a wonderful translation of the Tao Te Ching that I've incorporated in this book. He says, gave me my favorite definition of insanity. This is probably good. So a new definition of insanity, ladies and gentlemen. To believe that you need what you don't have is insane. I'll add, Wayne says, believing that you can't be content and happy now, where you are, because your future appears to you to be difficult, is another form of insanity. And now, take this lightly, ladies and gentlemen, because this comes from, of course, somebody who is used to giving talks to large audiences and is used to counseling and helping people working on these things in their lives. And sometimes you got to be kind of blunt. I mean, if you're too coddling, you're never really going to help anybody. But so don't take this the wrong way. Don't be like, Wayne is telling me that I'm insane. It's like, it's difficult to get to these levels that are being described here, believing that you can't be content and happy now because your future appears to you to be difficult is another form of insanity, but it takes practice to get to that level of knowing that you can be content and happy now, regardless. I think that's part of why I did that rant about being afraid of the end of the world, and that being what was the catalyst that led me into realizing that happiness is the ultimate thing. If you can be happy now and joyful and enjoy the moment, even if the world is ending out your window, that is powerful. That is powerful, ladies and gentlemen. And don't worry, the world is not ending. So if anybody says out there, oh, we're going to war, because they said that 25 years ago too. They said that 5 years ago too. They've been saying it from time immemorial, since Lao-tzu was writing this wisdom 2,500 years ago. Or if somebody says the world's ending, the sky is falling, it's not happening, ladies and gentlemen. Just don't give it any credence. Now, that doesn't mean you don't get yourself in a good position, to be able to handle or deal with any kind of quote unquote opportunities, as Rex calls them, or, times that may challenge us. But anyways, that's a different story. Just don't get sucked into these end of the world people, or, oh, we're going to get attacked by these people or those people. It's just silly. It's silly, ladies and gentlemen. Now, believing that you can't be content and happy. Okay, look at what you have right now and realize that you're obviously fine in this moment. I mean, unless a tiger has just walked in. This is my great metaphor here. Like Matt Belair. Shout out to Matt Belair. He's one of the big influences in my journey as well. And he's the one who showed me the existence of Wayne Dyer. So I really owe a lot to Matthew Belair. Be sure to check out his channel and his podcast, because great stuff. Even yesterday's video was fantastic from Matt Belair. So, and you'll also find me in the chat room over there sometimes. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, he's told this story about this idea that I was getting at. Like, if there's no tigers, you're safe right now. Unless a tiger walks in the room, ladies and gentlemen, no tigers, so we're good. Take a breath. You are safe. And so he goes, imagine you're at the grocery store. And this is back when I was working at Walmart. I'm listening to Matt Belair in this year, you know, doing my whatever during the day. And he's saying this story. He goes, imagine a tiger walks in the grocery store. You're going to be like the amount of adrenaline and athletic ability for you to climb up the shelves and be hanging in the rafters in an instant is incredible. And so he was talking about superhuman ability hidden within us. But what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is sometimes we give ourselves that kind of fear and anxiety throughout our days and in our daily moments because something in our lives is connecting with our, genetic memory of survival instinctual programming that we've, evolved past in the last 300 years of our, societal evolution and our technological evolution, that we no longer have to survive in the same ways that we did when we were living without these major cities and this kind of, even though that's all up for debate anyways, but anyways, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm getting at is there's no tigers. And so be in this moment. Obviously, you're fine in this moment. And A Course in Miracles states this idea so well. Quote, you have no problems, though you think that you have. And so the number 2 suggestion here is simply think small. Think small, ladies and gentlemen. Change your notion of thinking big to thinking small and getting big things done. Examine whatever it is that seems so enormous that it terrifies you to start, and then shift your thinking to see what can be done today in your precious present moments, completely ignoring the overall picture. This is powerful for trying to complete tasks. Your accomplishments will magnify into greatness when you undertake the small. And by doing so, you'll paradoxically see huge results, ladies and gentlemen. And now finally, we come to the end of our reading today, which what Wayne Dyer titles, Do the Tao Now. We read this last week. But see, there was so much more of an explanation this week. So if you missed last week's Tuesday Tao video, it'd be interesting to put these two together in sequence, which the playlist would do automatically. So if you ever go to the playlist, the Tao and the Wisdom of the Tao on the channel, it has all of these in order. And so it'd be very interesting to see the correlations as you go down through the series of the playlist. Do the Tao now, ladies and gentlemen. Wayne says, set aside some time today to focus on the biggest challenge in your life and break down whatever it is to one thing that can be done today, right in this moment. Erase the big picture. Simply do what you can now and let everything else fade. Write the opening paragraph to your novel. Lay out the blueprint for the home you want to build. Sign up for a local course. Go to a 2-minute run. Go for a 2-minute run. Be in the now. And see how doing the Tao at this moment brings big results by paradoxically staying small and simple, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. That is a boom to wisdom. That's a boom to the wisdom of the Tao and how we can begin living the wisdom of the Tao, ladies and gentlemen. That was fantastic. That was powerful. And I needed it. I've needed it every time, especially last week and this week. And that's why we do this. And next week's, ladies and gentlemen, will be titled Living by Being Here Now. So literally today's ends with be in the now. And next week is living by being here now. So how do we, I guess, get better at that? Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Powerful. That will be the 64th verse of the Tao Te Ching. So we're making our way towards the final verse. There's a good little epilogue in here, though, so we'll have a little closer at the end of this series. But we have many more weeks to go. It'll probably be June before we're finished, ladies and gentlemen. And we started with the idea of just showing up, practicing the art of showing up 1 year ago, maybe a little over a year. And that's fascinating, ladies and gentlemen. So I think we've only missed a couple weeks. I was tempted to take this week off or today off, but got to practice that art of showing up, ladies and gentlemen. It gets easier. Check out the shirt. It gets easier the more you practice it. So for all these spiritual techniques and these ideas of how we can begin to make happiness the way and begin changing our life by changing our thoughts, by changing our awareness. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. Enlightenment meaning a greater awareness, a greater understanding of not only ourselves, our psychology, and our spirituality, but understanding the nature of our reality. And remember to seek to discover the wisdom of the ages and the mysteries of history, ladies and gentlemen, but most importantly, make happiness the way. There is no way to happiness. It is the way. And so we need to begin to practice making it the activity that we bring to life instead of searching to squeeze it out of life. Because when we're doing that, we're never going to have it wherever we go. There's a great story about the cat and the alley cat. I won't tell the whole story, but the old alley cat sees this little kitten in the alley and he's running in circles. The kitten is. He's chasing his tail, and the alley cat comes up and goes, what are you doing? Ridiculous. And the little kitten says, oh, well, I'm chasing my tail. I'm trying to get, the cat goes, what are you doing this for? This, once again, it doesn't make any sense. And the little kitten goes, well, I just got back from cat philosophy school. Cat philosophy school, ladies and gentlemen. The kitten says, I learned at cat philosophy school that there's two things that are most important for a cat in life. And those two things are, number one, happiness is the most important thing for a cat. And number two, that is located in your tail. This happiness is located in your tail. So he goes, I'm chasing and chasing and chasing my tail, and I'm trying to get a hold and a lock. I'm trying to get this eternal, once I get it, I'm going to have an eternal lock on happiness, and I'll have it in my hands. And the old alley cat says, well, he says, I haven't had a chance, to be so lucky to go to cat philosophy school. He says, I've been out here surviving and trying to scrounge around and chase after my food to get by for many years. It's tough out here in the alleys. And so he says, but it is funny. I have discovered the same two things are true, even though I haven't been to this cat philosophy school. And it is true that happiness is indeed the number one thing for a cat, and it is located in your tail. He says, but little kitten, the only difference between you and me is I go about my business and doing what I know I need to do, and it follows behind me everywhere that I go. And so I thought that beautiful. I love that story. I heard that from Wayne Dyer in the first place. So give him all the credit. I don't know where that story really came from, but if you stop chasing after it and trying to get to the things that you've been telling yourself, oh, I'll be happy when I get there and get an eternal lock on happiness, and you can begin to bring it to life and make it the way, then it will follow behind you and be with you wherever you go. And then the entire journey is wonderful. And those things are irrelevant. And so I love that story. And hopefully you got a lot out of today, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to apologize to Gorilla Press. This is so funny. And so I always say at the end of these videos, be sure to expand the description below the video, which it's an interesting process, ladies and gentlemen. They changed it and it's harder to do than it used to be. Let's see if we can, I'm trying to pull up here an example so I can show you. Can you see it? Maybe. So here is my channel, and it's got some of my videos there. It's kind of too bright anyways. And now we're loading up last week's video. And so underneath the video where there's a little title right here, and then it shows some tags, and then it says more right under the title. You'll hit the more button and it expands into, dang, it's just showing up as white. There we go. It expands into a further version of the description. And then on that page, there's another more button right there in the corner. And you hit that, and that goes down to the full version of the description. Sorry about the blurriness that I put in there for every one of these videos, ladies and gentlemen. And it has a get the book here link. Also enjoy landscape and oil paintings in the background, which says check out my Etsy shop there. And a link to C60 Purple Power and an email for contact if you'd like to, get in contact with me. And so, close that out. What I was thinking there is I'd like to give an apology to Gorilla Press, who caught me off guard in a first ever situation. I've had my Etsy shop for a few years now, and I haven't painted for a few months, and I've been kind of, just waiting for my listings to expire. And so what happens when somebody buys a painting from my shop, try to fix that maybe. But anyways, is I usually send out an extra one with it in the package. Sometimes, especially if the shipping cost. I had someone from the Netherlands buy one like 4 or 5 months ago, which I appreciate that guy. He supported me for a while. So I sent him an extra one. And I happened to forget to remove the listing from my Etsy shop. So then Gorilla Press, thank you so much to you again for all your support and engagement with me here on this channel, and for purchasing one of my paintings. And so I seen the order come in, and I start looking around here in my stacks of, box of paintings and whatnot. And I'm like, I can't find it. So then I go to my dad's house and I'm looking at all the paintings they have over there, and I'm like, no, it's not here either. And so then I remember, shoot, I sent that one out with the one going to the Netherlands, and I forgot to remove the listing, and now somebody has purchased it. I didn't even know it was one of my viewers here, one of my great subscribers. And so, yeah, I felt really bad. I sent a long message. I was like, here's 3 similar paintings that I have that aren't even listed at the moment, but I sent the pictures, and this whole time they ended up choosing one, and I sent them that one. They're both beautiful. And then I sent them another one, which is very similar to that one I'm looking at over there. But so yeah, that's it. Anyways, sorry, Gorilla Press, but I hope you love your painting. You should have probably gotten it by now. And so if this is replaying on the premiere, then maybe I'll see you in the live chat, and you can let me know. But that was a mistake, and that was a facepalm moment. Hilarious, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll finish up with that, and we'll leave that where it is. Once again, thank you so much to all of you who have joined me here today and spent time here with me and Dr. Wayne Dyer and Lao-tzu and the wisdom of the Tao. And thank you to all of those of you who subscribe and support me. It means a ton to me. And until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, with Wednesday Wisdom, going into more of the history of the Hermetica. I don't know. Continue, ladies and gentlemen, to try to bring that happiness to life by making things small and being in the moment. All right. Love you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much. Consider subscribing. Leave me a comment. Check out the descriptions. And Be the change you want to see. Be the example that you want people to see more of in the world. To be the example that you want to see more of in the world. All right. I'll quit rambling. Love you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you tomorrow.